If you're here, please take a book. If you don't have a book on in the, am I good over here? Okay, I think we're on. I think we're on Facebook. We're all on. Oh, what a crowd over here today. Thank you all for coming. This is truly a fascinating teaching of the Rebbe. And I'm happy that you all came back, because when I learned the Sikha many, many years ago, I remember as a young man, it blew my mind away. The Lubavitch Rebbe took a teaching in this week's Parhsa and truly wrote out an unbelievable lesson to each and every one of us. I think this is a beautiful teaching of the Rebbe. I believe it's going to blow your mind. If it's not going to blow your mind, don't blame the Rebbe. It's because I'm not teaching it right, okay? So this is truly an unbelievable lesson. And if you don't understand something, please say. So hopefully you can bring this class correctly, and everybody will understand it, because I think it's a mind-blowing concept. And truthfully, this portion in general, Parhsa Mishpatim, is a mind-blowing portion. There's so much in this portion, in the law itself, because there's a portion of laws in the law itself, and the meaning of the laws of the Torah, and self-understood, as we're going to learn today, in the spiritual meaning of the law of the Torah. Because the law of the Torah, most of us might think, I don't have a cow, I don't have an ox, I don't do a lot of these laws anyway. What does that have to do with me? I'm not a judge. I'm not a lawyer. What does all this have to do with me? And you're going to learn today the way the Rebbe takes the portion, explains a very simple law, and really shows that the law has a very, very deep meaning, and meaning to each and every one of us. So we're going to learn a law, one of the laws, of the many laws in this week's Parhsa, which is the law in general of an oath. The Torah introduces us in this week's Parhsa to the concept of an oath. It's part of the Ten Commandments. You shall not use God's name in vain in making an oath. And the Torah introduces us to when a person makes an oath. In general, the law of an oath is the law of a moide b'mitzas, meaning a person that is partial, a person that's partially acknowledges the claim, a partial acknowledgement. Or let's say there's no witnesses. If there's witnesses to a claim, then there's no oath. Oath is not going to help you. So let's say there's one witness to a claim. You can have a concept of an oath. But the classical case of an oath is partial acknowledgement. That means that if Yankel comes to Shmerel and says, you owe me $100, and Shmerel says, I owe you $50, that's a partial acknowledgement, right? There's no witnesses to the oath, to the situation. If there's two witnesses that come and say you owe me that Shmerel owes Yankel $100, then no oath can help him. He has to pay him back $100. But in a situation there's no witnesses, Yankel comes to Shmerel and says, I owe you $100. You owe me $100. Shmerel says, yes, I owe you money, but only $50. That's called in halacha a moide b'mitzas. Now, the law of the Torah, we're going to talk about, is not that case, but also the same similar case. I give you $100 to watch. It's the law of a watchman. I give you. I got to go out of town. Here's $100. Here's $100 to watch for me. See you in a week. I come back in a week. I say, can you give me back my $100? Say, $100? You gave me $50. You have to make an oath. Shmerel in this story has to make the oath. He has to say it was only $50. Okay, that's a moide b'mitzas. You got the law? A moide b'mitzas. Now, why do you have to make an oath? There's no witnesses over here, so you should really say thank you for giving me back the $50, right? Because there's no witnesses. It's me on my word against your word. Okay, Yankel against Shmerel's word. Why does Shmerel need to take the oath? Right? Why? And you know the law, because, so the rabbis say the reason that he needs to take the oath is because really Shmerel should have said, I don't owe you a penny. I don't owe you anything. Right? If Yankel come to Shmerel and say, you owe me $100, and Shmerel says, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't owe you a penny. What happens then? You don't owe him a penny. There's no witnesses. There's no document. It's my word against your word. Have a good day. That's the general rule. If you want to take money, if Yankel wants to take money out of Shmerel, he has to bring the proof, bring witnesses, bring a document. You don't have a document, you don't have witnesses, you're out. Now that Shmerel said, I owe you $50, he's a Moed b'Miktsas, he's a partial acknowledgement of debt. So really, what the guy really wants to, the Torah says, and that's really the guy wants to say, I owe $100, right? Because the guy will not, ain't no the maze part of him, it means a person will not have the audacity to deny a claim in front of the person who's claiming it. So he doesn't have the money, so he says he comes a partial acknowledgement of the debt, and therefore to force him to be honest, we give him an oath.
Take a shower, Ricardo.
So to be honest, we make him do an oath. Concept of partial acknowledgement is really to emphasize that his acknowledgement is truthful. Okay? Hey, that's the law. If you have a question in the law, it's important that you tell me that you have a question so we can understand the law. What?
The emes back and say, but don't you remember, Schmeckel? You owe me $100, not $50.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know you. So Shmerel needs to make an oath. So hopefully he'll bring out his honesty. If he makes the oath, then he only pays $50. If he says, I don't want to make the oath, then he has to pay the other $50. So the oath, since an oath was a very powerful thing, saying it's one of the 10 commandments, you shall not say something in vain, you not use God's name in vain. So hopefully the oath will bring out the truth.
Well, you owe me?
Yeah, no, the court will take the court will say to Shmerel, you gotta make an oath. Either you make an oath that you only owe him $50, or you're a watchman that he only gave you to watch $50. If not, okay. So that's the law of a Moed b'Miktsas. There is where oath comes into mainly. Okay. Let's go to the Torah. Okay. The verse text number 1. It's in Exodus chapter 22, verse number 8. This is the verse that teaches us this law. I'll call Dvar Pesha. Ready? Ala shalom, ala chamer, on any sinful word, on a bull or for a donkey, for a lamb, for a garment, for any lost article, concerning which he says, this is it. And this is the learning of the Torah. This is it. That's the wording. The word is ki hu zeh. This is from these 3 words. We learn out this whole law. Ki hu zeh. He says, this is it. Say, not that. He doesn't deny it. He says, ki hu zeh. That's the whole emphasis of the learning of the Torah, these words. Ki hu zeh. He says, this is it, not that. That means if the guy would have said, I don't know what you're talking about. No, but he says he's partial. He says, ki hu zeh. It's this, not that. That's the whole learning of the Gemara. Okay? So concerning which says, this is it, the plea of both of the parties shall come before the judges. Whoever the judges is guilty shall pay twofold to his neighbor. So in the law of the Torah here, we're talking about a law where a guy comes and says, I've given you an article, I gave you a cow, I gave you a sheep, I gave you a garment, I gave you money. The watchman over here, we're talking about watchman. The watchman says, you gave me something, but not what you say. You gave me something. You gave me a cow, but not a cow of 1,000 pounds. You gave me a cow of 500 pounds. So it's not exactly the way you say it, right? So it's not exactly, you gave me a garment that was shmata, and you're claiming a garment that's a new garment. So it's not exactly it's not exactly the way you say it. It's partially the way you say it. I say, I gave you a garment. Let's get Yankel Shmel. I gave you a garment, because that's how I keep on going back in my mind, so I'm going to go that way. I gave you a garment, and you say to me, what are you talking about? You never gave me a garment. I gave you my garment to watch. I gave you my cow. I gave you my car. I say, what are you talking about? You say, you don't know what you're talking about, right? Then nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do about it.
Can I look in your closet?
Look at my closet, because hey, no, you can't. You can look at my closet, because you can't really say
It
that.
has Elliot written.
You have to bring proof. You have to bring proof. You gotta. That's why you should never give anybody anything without a document or without witnesses, because basically you're trusting my honesty. So I'm trusting your honesty. So therefore, I come to you. I say I gave you a garment. You say no. I need to prove that I gave you a garment. Finish. If I have no proof, I lose my claim. So therefore, the Torah says over here that we're not talking in that case. We're talking in a case where you said ki hu zeh. It's not totally true. It's semi-true. It's not totally the way you say it. I mean, it's semi the way you say it. Right? Look at the Gemara, text number 2. Rav Chia bar Abba said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan regarding one who falsely states about a deposit that the thief stole it, he's not obligated to take an oath until he denies part of the claim and admits part of the claim. What is the reason for this? The verse says, concerning which he says that this is it, indicating the admittance of only part. This is it. It's not this. It's not that. It's this. According to the statement of Rav Abba says, for what reason did the Torah say that the one who admits to a part of a claim must take an oath? Okay, that's the terminology, the Gemara terminology. Moide b'miktsas, person who claims partial responsibility. It's because there's a presumption that a person does not exhibit insolence by lying in the presence of the creditor. That's a general rule. The rule is that you always have to have two people in front of the court. You can't make a claim without the person there. That's a general rule. They need to be facing each other. Okay? When you come to court, they both need to be there. Because there's a rule that people will not lie in front of each other, right? You can lie when the guy's not around. When you're in front of each other, it'd be harder for you to say it's not true. It'll be harder for you to say, it'll be harder for the claimant also to say something you owe me when it's not true either. You're in front of me. Okay, we're facing each other. It's very hard to deny something in front of somebody. The Gemara actually says later on, later generations, people will deny in front of everybody. They don't care. So that's why we don't do vows anymore, because people have the chutzpah to say in front of somebody else, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know who you are. So times have changed. But, right, the moral compass has come a little bit, but that's the general rule. A person will not be insolent by lying in presence of his creditor. And this person who denies part of the claim actually wants to deny all the claim, the debt, and to be exempt. The fact that he does not deny all of it is because the person does not exhibit chutzpah, insolence, right? Therefore, the merciful one imposes an oath upon him to ensure that he'll admit the debt. So that's the reason. Really, the person wants to say, I don't owe you a penny, because there's no witnesses, no document. So the person would say, I don't owe you a penny. But the person doesn't have a chutzpah. So he says, I only owe you 50. I owe you $50. I owe you 50%. So now he feels less, that he has such chutzpah to lie totally. So he lies only 50%. And now, really, so therefore God says, make an oath. I'm going to make you make an oath that you only owe 50% or whatever the percentage is, not important in the amount. I owe a mixas, make a vow, and that vow will bring out your truth. Right? Because you're not going to want to make a vow. Correct. All right. So look at the next text, number 3. The Talmud says, the just says to him, beware that the entire world trembles when God, Holy One, blessed name, said on Mount Sinai, you shall not take my name in vain. Right? So get ready, my friends. You're making a vow. Okay, so realize the ramifications of your vow. Beware with regard to all the other transgressions of the Torah. Punishment is exact only from the transgressor. We're here, punishment is exacted from him and from his family. You're making a vow on money. Don't think you're going to get away with it, okay? God's going to come after you, and if you're not for you, for your family, for making a vow in vain. Beware that with regard to all other transgressions in the Torah, punishment is exact only from the transgressor. We're here. Punishment is exacted from him and it's from the entire world. Beware that with regard to all other transgressions of the Torah, a merit will work to delay punishment for 2 or 3 generations. We're here using God's name in vain. Punishment exacted immediately. Things that fire and water cannot destroy, a false oath will destroy. So realize that your oath is a powerful thing. If the defendant says, I will not take an oath, the court dismisses immediately and rules him liable to pay. The truth is, that's why most people, holy people, would not take the oath, they'll pay. Because taking an oath in vain is a powerful thing. So again, I said before, the rabbi said we should not do oaths. Until today, don't make any promises. Don't make any oaths. Don't swear in God's name. Don't do that. No, we don't do any oaths. Even I go to court, I say I affirm, I'm not taking an oath. It's accepted in American courts not to take an oath. So I say I affirm. They know right away. Okay.
I put my hand on that Bible anyway.
Affirm, I'm not making an oath.
So you can.
I'm not making an oath. That all I say is true.
What?
Because taking an oath is a very powerful thing. And if there's any not truth in what you're saying, even if it's the minute, it's not truth. It's a very negative thing in Torah. And it's all the 10 Commandments. You shall not say my name.
When you go to an American court, you have to take an oath before you.
I say I affirm. I affirm. I don't take any oath. I affirm that what I'm saying is true. I will not take an oath. I affirm. I'm not taking an oath. I affirm that I'm saying the truth to the best of my ability. I'm not making an oath on a Bible, on anything. I'm not taking an oath. I can never say an oath that everything I'm saying is true. I might make a mistake. It might be misinterpret something. I missaid it, etc. I'm not taking any oath.
So you're allowed to do that in an American
100%. American court. I've done it many times. I will not take an oath. I will affirm. And the judge accepts it. I affirm that what I'm going to say is true.
Okay.
I'm affirming it on my own merit.
My
I'm
knowledge.
not putting an oath on anything that I am saying is true. I can't. I will not. I will affirm it. I will not say an oath. So, and that's the reality. If he says, I will take the oath, and you see what happens if a person says, I take an oath? The Gemara says, the people stand there, say to each other, depart, I pray you from the tents of these wicked, because take an oath. And to be 100% sure, that's why we Jews have a custom of saying Bli Neder, without a vow. Bli Neder. I'm not taking any oath on anything that I'm going to say or anything that I'm going to do. Bli Neder, without any oath, without any vow. taking an oath and not living up to the oath, even if I'm living up 50% to my oath, I've now broken the oath. No, no, I don't say I oath.
Tuba is not an oath?
No, no such thing. Tuva is a legal responsibility. It's not an oath. It's not. I affirm. Tuva is I affirm.
Oh.
Li neder, because again, my person might accept that as an oath, and therefore, another point. So therefore, I want to make sure that between man and man and man and God, I take no oaths. I take no oath. It doesn't make a difference. It might be interpreted as an oath. It might be interpreted. I want to make sure I've got no oath. And it's an important thing to us because again, even though I didn't say God's name, and even though I didn't say an oath, I don't want to take an oath. That's why in before Rosh Hashanah, I make a disqualification. I say I didn't say bli neder, right? Even in the wording of your breaking disqualify, you say I didn't say bli neder. I didn't even say the word bli neder. I want to make sure that anything that I say, anything that I take upon myself is not in the way of an oath. I don't want to have that responsibility. I don't want that responsibility. Well, that they should. They should say bli neder with everything. Bli neder without an oath. Take total responsibility. I don't want to be liable by God, and I don't want to be liable. My responsibility is my word. You have to take my responsibility as my word, and that's it. I don't want to go further than that. I don't want to go further than that. If you cannot accept that, then I'm out. I want it to be that it's based on my I affirm, not more than that. I don't want to get more than that.
So if I
say bli neder, with the help of God, I'll see you bli neder. I am not taking an oath. So, because I might become wicked if I take an oath and now I break the oath, I'm a wicked person. I'm a wicked person, and I don't want to go to that level. Okay, but that's not the point. Well, let's not get stuck in.
Is that the same as Bezrat Hashem?
Yeah, but it's not Hashem, the help of God. But that's not even that, because God don't want to help anybody. But bli neder, without any oath, without any strings attached. So touch nothing of theirs, lest they be swept away by their own sin. So saying something, taking an oath, is a very, very, extremely, very, very committed concept. And therefore, most people do not live up to their commitments. The ability of an oath. And therefore, as I said before, a lot of people would say, you know what? Take your $50, whatever. I don't want to make the oath. I don't want to make the oath, even though I know that it was only $50. But it's not worth it for me to take the oath. Take the $50 that you say I owe you, and shalom al yisrael.
What if it was $1 million?
Okay, but you'll soon see something else. You'll see the question. Your very good question, and that's where the law is going to come and protect the person. Okay, very good question. Really, the question is, who is the one who has to say the claim first? That's really the question. Who claimant? Who has to say the thing first when you come to court? The one who's demanding the $100, or the one who says I only owe you $50? Who says the statement first?
The demander.
That gives the problem. If the demander is first, because we have no witnesses, we have no document. So the question is, who says the claim first?
The plaintiff.
So in general, the claimant says his claim first, and now the one who says the $50, he is retracting. What would happen if you do it the other way? Let the defendant say his claim first. Two guys come to court, right? I'm the judge. One guy says I have a claim of money. We took a money claim. The other guy says I have a response. So the judge will say, you know what? Wait a second. First, we have no documents. We have no witnesses. Let's hear what the defendant says first. how much do you owe? Guy says $50. So the guy says, okay, now you, how much do you say that he owes? Now you're the respondent.
$100.
So in a regular case, we ask the claimant first. You say, how much does you're owed? $100. Now the second guy is responding to the $100 claim. If it's a lot of money, about a lot of money, so the court's going to be very smart. And the court's going to say, okay, defendant, how much do you owe? The guy will say $500,000.
Yeah.
Another guy will say, no, you owe me $1 million. We're going to go with the $500,000 because now he's the one who's he's the one who said it first. So his statement will stand in the court as not a response, but as a claim. And he won't even have to take a vow. That's like him saying, I know you nothing.
Always have someone witness. Not sufficient.
But you're right, because if it's a lot of money, then we're going to ask him first. Now you have to take it or leave it. Then the claimant, since he didn't say his claim first, has to take it and leave it.
For $1 million, I would.
A haircut.
Well, you don't have a document. You don't have a document. You don't have witnesses. Okay.
Business that way.
Let's go to the verse. Let's look at it. You see, we're going to see the verse. Very interesting verse, because Marvin, you mentioned this, and this is important. This is an important part of the law, and you will see why. It's an important part of the law. And God said to Moses, "Come to me for the mountain and remain there, and I will give you the stone tablets, the law of the commandments which you have written and instructed." Right. So Moses and Joshua and his servants arose, and Moses ascended to Mount Sinai, and he was going up for the second tablets. He turns around to the people. He says to them, and to the elders he said, wait here for us, here until we will return to you. And here Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a case, let him go to them. Whoever has a case, let him say it first. Very interesting expression in the Torah. Why is the Torah telling us this? So in essence, the Gemara says, why is the Torah telling us, mi bal devarim, whoever has a word to say it, to come forward? But here the Gemara learns this law. You see, the next law, 4b, such an important lesson in Jewish law. And Rab Nachman said in the name of Rav Abba, from where is it derived that a court first attends to the claimant and only after it tends to the counterclaim of the defendant, as it says, whoever has a cause, let him come near to them. Whoever has a claim against another should admit his claim to them first. From there we learn that usually a claimant comes first. One who has the claim comes first. That means in a regular court case, we're going to hear the claimer first. Then we'll hear the defendant second. But that puts the defendant in a very uncomfortable situation, right? It puts the defendant in an uncomfortable situation because either he's going to have to agree or he's going to have to take a vow. Why would we put the defendant in a very uncomfortable situation? Now, either he's going to have to say, I owe you $100, or he's going to have to say, I'll take a vow. When we know that a vow is a very, very powerful thing. So why would we do that? Therefore, the Gemara says, Shulchan Aruch says, in the next law, it's a very important law. We call upon the claimant first. If there's a significant loss for the defendant, we call upon him first. or you're right, if there's a significant loss, and we're putting the defendant in a very, very uncomfortable situation that either he pays or he makes a vow, and we don't want to play with vows. Therefore, if there's a big loss to the defendant, we ask him first. We got the law straight?
If someone owes me $1 million,
So the defendant says, I owe you.
One second.
$5,000.
and I have to go to court, I would say, as God is my witness, he owes me $1 million.
No, we don't ask you for a vow. That's the problem. The claimant never
Why
makes a
can't I do
vow.
that?
No, you can't, because your vow is not by you. So your vow is not even asked for. The claimant doesn't vow. The claimant never vows. It's the defendant that has to make the vow. Okay? So the claimant has no vow. His vow is worthless, and he's not asked to make a vow. Okay, so let's get the law straight because it's important. The law of the Torah that we just learned is that a vow was given to a defendant in a case where he accepts partial responsibility. Right? He's asked to make a vow that he only owes partially, not completely. Whether it's a situation where a guy lends money, whether it's a situation where a guy gives some money for another person to watch. He has to, in a situation where now he comes by and he says half of the claim, the Torah puts a vow upon him. And if he makes the vow, but we threaten him, right? He comes forward. So if the guy says, I owe you nothing, you never gave me anything to watch, there's nothing you can do about it, right? If he comes and says, I owe you partially, the Torah says, you pay partially, and you make a vow that you only owe that part. Correct?
Yeah.
If you don't want to make the vow because we're threatening you or putting a lot of pressure on you, the vow, you better make sure that the vow is correct. You're going to have to pay the whole large amount of money. Then we're going to ask, instead of asking the claimant to say his claim first, which will put the defendant in a very tight situation, we're going to ask the claimant to say his claim first. How much do you owe? And if he says that claim first, and the defendant, the defendant says his statement first, and the claimant has to accept it. The claimant has to accept it because really he could have said, I don't owe you a penny. So thank you for saying that he owes you 50% or whatever the percentage is. And now he walks away without saying a vow. That's the law. Right, because he said it before the claimant. The second the claimant says something, and why the reason is simple, because the second the claimant says something, the defendant can't totally lie. That's the analogy. The claimant doesn't say anything, so now we accept the word of the defendant because he didn't go against anybody. And he never went against anybody when he made his claim, when he said his statement. He never went against anybody. So therefore, we accept his statement.
So the claimant loses $500,000?
Well, the claimant could have lost everything because the guy could have said, I don't owe you a penny.
Yeah.
He could have lost everything.
Yeah.
If the defendant would have said, I don't owe you a penny, now you don't have any claim. That's what the claim, that's called a migui. If he's a liar, he could have said, I don't owe you a penny. And you would not be able to get the money without having witnesses or a document. If you bring witnesses, that's what the Torah says. If you make a vow, for example, the guy makes a vow, I don't owe you 50, right? That's the Torah law. If a guy makes a vow, he says, I only owe you $50,000, right? So now he's free. And now we have witnesses. Suddenly I find witnesses. You know what? The story, we were witnesses. You didn't witnesses, but we were actually there. And we bring him now to court that he owes you 100,000. You know, you have to pay now double. I have to pay him double. So you made a vow, you only owed 50, and you really owed 100. Now you are penalized to pay double. That's the law.
So keep your witnesses at home until it's necessary. You get double.
Beautiful law. It's a very interesting law, a very intricate law. What's the spiritual law? Really, you have to really understand. Why would you put a person into an oath? Really, the question stands. Why would you put a person in an oath when you're frightening him? Why you make a concept of a law of an oath and then frighten him, right? Because in essence, the guy says, I owe you $50. You owe me $100. The guy says, no, I owe you $50. Now we're going to give him a law. So we give him a law of an oath, but then we frighten him out of his pants. We say, you're making an oath, I'm out of here, you're wicked. So why make a law that then you say, don't use the law, right? Don't use the oath. So it's a very hard law to understand the concept of Meidim Mixes. So therefore,
Rabbi, what would happen if this law goes against the law of, let's say, the United States? How does that work?
When it comes to money matters, the law of the land is the law.
Okay.
So,
okay.
especially today, that there's no oaths. So this law would not stand today, even in Jewish law, because in essence, there's no such thing as an oath.
Okay.
So today in the law, if a person came to you and said you owe $100 and say I owe you 50, you should give him $100 because there's no oath today.
Okay.
You have to give $100 less because you're Meidim Mixes, you'll have to give $100 because there's no law oath today. Even in the Jewish court, there's no oaths today. So you're out of the oath situation. You'll have to give him $100. Jewish law today, even you're not even.
Okay.
In American law, you would not be able to collect. I don't know, in American law, there's no document, there's no thing, there's no document. So how would you collect it? You would have to, you're only collecting on the statement that he said, I owe you $150. So you would only be able to collect $50. In Jewish law today, actually you get the $100 because you can't make a vow. So the second you can't make a vow, you got to pay the whole thing.
Okay.
But really the question would be why there would be a vow in Jewish law that ultimately you can make a vow. So how does this law stand today to us? We're not going to court. We're not talking about a real case. So what does this case have to do with me today? A Meidim Miktsas. What does it really have to do with me? Is the lesson of the Rebbe. The real lesson is that there is a concept of a debt in spiritual law. What is the lesson of a debt in spiritual law? So you ready? This is the lesson. This is really the lesson of this whole case to me in a spiritual way. You ready? Gemara, the Rebbe brings down a Gemara. Gemara says, Masnis and Tana, we learned, is taught in a Parhsa regarding the Satan. You know the Satan, the famous Satan? Gemara says, you know, who's the Satan? Who's this guy Satan? Everybody talks about it. Everybody likes to talk about him. So the Satan, the Gemara says, is the whole package. The Gemara says as follows. He descends to this world, misleads a person into sinning. He's the Satan. He then ascends to heaven, levels accusations against the very sinner. So he's the same guy. The Satan is the one who challenges you. The Satan is the one who's the accuser. He becomes the prosecutor. And then he's the same guy who does the retribution. He's a one package deal. Okay? He inflames God's anger against him. He then receives permission to act takes away the sinner's soul as a punishment. So he is the same guy who challenges you. He's the same guy who accuses you. He's the same guy who will take retribution. That's why the Shlaka says The Satan and the evil inclination are one and the same. There's not a guy out there, some Satan out there. He's right in there. He's your Yetzer Hara. He's my evil inclination. He's the guy who's trying to get me to do bad. He's the same guy who's going to accuse me. He's the same guy who's going to make me tzaras. It's the same entity. There's not 5 different entities. Really, if I need to know who's my accuser, who's my challenger, it's my Yetzer Hara, right within me. He's the guy that I need to deal with. He's the guy that I need to respond to. It's not some other person, entity that I need to respond to. I need to respond to my own evil inclination. If I have any problems, if I have any issues, it's not with some guy out there. It's right in with me, my Yetzer Hara, which is going to be the one who enticed me, my Yetzer Hara, which is going to be the one who's standing in court and accuse me, and my Yetzer Hara is going to be the one who's going to ultimately give me my pains in life. And that's really the entity that I need to deal with. So how do I deal with my Yetzer Hara? How do I deal with my Yetzer Hara? What does my Yetzer Hara want? What does my inclination want? You know, the Mishnah says, it's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, like a loner. Yetzer Hara is like a loner. He gives out free loans. Why does he want? Why is he giving out free loans? Because he wants you to become indebted to him. Doesn't give out anything free. Yetzer Tov wants a mitzvah, wants avodah, he wants service. Good wants something that you do. The Yetzer Hara says, no problem. Let's do whatever you want. Whatever you want. There's nothing good has to come from it. Nothing has to. We're gonna go in business together. I'm giving you a loan. I'm your private partner. I'm your silent partner. Everything's gonna be great right now. Might be tzaras later, but who's talking about later? Right now, let's party. I'm your equal opportunity loaner. I'm giving you all the opportunities. I'm giving you everything you want. I'm your loaner. Why does he want a loan to you? Because he wants you to become indebted to him. And we all know debts can accumulate. And ultimately, we become a slave to it. We become so indebted that we have no way out. We're going to foreclosure. And we have tzaddis, right? The indebtor becomes our owner. We all know that in our day-to-day life. But that's exactly what the Yetzer Hara wants. That's what physicality wants. It wants to take you over. It wants to basically become the balabas. That's what we learn in Chassidus. It wants to become the balabas. To begin with, it sounds like a good thing. What's wrong? It's an enjoyment. It's a pleasure. It's a good thing to do. But ultimately, it wants to take over. It wants to become, you become indebted to him. And that's why it says the Yetzer Hara is the enticer. In the beginning, it's only an enticement. It's a free credit card. What can you go bad? I'm giving you a free credit. I'm giving you, you can buy whatever you want. But then the 17% interest, right? It's 18% interest. If you forget to pay one day, now you're 25% interest. Now we got you. You become now a slave to this debt. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly the way it is. The Yetzer Hara is your indebted. The situation. That's the text number the Alter Rebbe says. Yeah. After a sinful act, however, the sinner animal soul, which animates the body and is integrated into it, and as well as the body itself, return and rise from the negativity to draw closer to the wholeness of the divine soul. The pervasive divine soul always believes that the one in God remains faithful to him, and while the sin is committed. So what is the problem is? You come to court, Yetzer Hara says, you belong to me. The proof is that you have sinned. You owe me the money. You owe me 100%. What does the Jew say? Oivei, I do owe you the money, right? I do owe you the money, but I'm not 100%, right? Not 100% owe you the money. I owe you 50%. That's an honest person, right? So you go to sleep at night, or you look in the mirror, and the Yetzer Hara says, you owe me 100%. You're 100% mine. And what does the Jew say? I'm 60% yours, right? I'm not 100%. I'm not 100%. I'm 10%, right? How much percentage are you? So, right, you come truthfully. You look in the mirror, and you say, how much percent am I? How much percent have I? How much percent have I messed up? I didn't want to use your words. How much percent? What percentage? Want to be honest. Yetzer Hara says, okay, comes to God and says, Yankel, how much percent are you? How much do you owe me? How much are you mine? How much? Be honest. You're in court. So the guy says, okay, I'm 10%, I'm 60, 50%, I'm 60%. How? Let's be honest. How much percent do we owe our evil inclination? What is the percentage? Nevertheless, we say to God, you know what? You're right. I'm a meidim miktsas. I'm not going to lie and say I don't own. I never gave in to my Yetzer Hara. I never gave in to my evil inclination. Okay, I gave in. I'm still 40% not. It says, okay, you go into the category of a meidim miktsas. Into the category of a person who agrees. Who's ultimately saying he's culpable, he's capable, he's responsible in part of the damages. Oy vey, what do we do with this situation? Yetzer Hara is screaming, no, wait, he's a liar. He owes me 100%. What are you talking about, 50%? He's a liar. He's 100% mine. What do we do now? You don't have to wait till 120 years to this question. You have to ask the question every day. Let's be honest. What percentage am I godly, being correct? What percentage I'm playing around? What percentage? Let's ask the question. Ask the question yourself. Every day God gives me a loan. He gives me my godly soul. What percentage of this loan have I been honest with? And what percentage of the loan I am abused? In a second. We'll see in a second what that means. We'll see in a second what that means, or what the vow means. What's the vow mean in this situation? So I'm honest to God. God asked me today, okay, Zalman, I gave you a loan, your neshama, I gave you a loan. The Yetzer Hara is saying over here that you abused 100% of the loan. How much do you owe? Well, not totally true, as the Yetzer Hara says. It's not 100%. It is maybe a little bit. I have abused a little bit. It's true. Let's be honest. I have 20% I abused, but 80% is still good. So 80% is gewaldig. Okay, now we have an argument between you and your Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara says he's 100%. You owe me 100%. You say it's only 80%. It's only 20%. What do? We have an argument between you and your evil inclination. Who's saying the truth? That's why we make him do a vow, right? We make him do a vow. We'll see what the vow means, okay? So the divine soul always believes that the one God, so even when I'm doing the sin, that's the beauty. The beauty is that even when I'm doing the sin, right, I believe in God. I'm a Jew. I believe in God. So I'm still believing in God. I didn't give up 100%. Even when I'm doing the sin, I'm not giving up 100%. Right? God forbid. Nobody does a sin. I'm in a moment of insanity, right? Even the Alter Rebbe says a Jew doesn't do a sin unless it's a moment of insanity. Right? So the insanity clause. So what's insanity? Insanity says, it's not me. That's true. It's true. It's not you. We can use the insanity clause. God gave us the insanity clause. It's not that I came up with it. God says a Jew does not do a sin unless it's insane. So therefore, what does the Jew say? What means insane? Insane That's good. You know that's such a good clause. Look at the next thing. It'll blow you away. The Talmud says, Amar Reish Lakish. This is Lakish. Peishi Yisrael. Regarding to the sinners of a Jewish people, the fire of Gehenna have no power over them. As we've learned from the golden altar. Look at the golden altar. The golden altar in the temple was only covered by the thickness of a golden dinner, a very small layer of gold. Gold is very soft. Yet it stood for many years and the fire never burnt it. For its gold did not melt. So too the sinners of the Jewish people, who are filled with good deeds like a pomegranate. How much more should the fires of Gehenna have no power over them? Why? Because a Jew, even though he sins, he's still a Jew. He has a full of good deeds like a Riemann. So even though percentage, he is, to be honest, he owes a percentage, but it's not 100%. It's never 100%. And therefore, don't worry about Gehenna. But it's true. I abused the Yetzer Hara. I owe a percentage to the Yetzer Hara. That's the honest truth. I spoke Lashon Hara. I might have not done things totally L'Shem Shamayim. I might have done things that are not correct. So there is a percentage. There is a percentage that I have done wrong. And therefore the Eibusha says, okay, the way to rectify it is two ways. The way to rectify this is two ways, right? Because I say I owe 50%. So the way to rectify it with his shoe, right, is by making a vow. What's the vow? So this is the beginning of Tanya, the first lesson in Tanya, the first lines of Tanya. If you remember that Tanya says that before a soul comes down to the heaven, comes down from heaven, mashbiyim, I say, you make the soul make a vow. Make the soul make a vow. God makes the soul in heaven make a vow that he will be righteous and not be wicked. Not the vow that you made to God. You know your vows between you and God, but not that God made you make a vow. That's a vow. But the Alter Rebbe says further. The Alter Rebbe says, why do we make a soul make a vow? What's the word mashbiyan? The Alter Rebbe explains that the word mashbiyan means we satiate the soul. Mashbiyan comes from the word sevea. We give the soul, we satiate the soul. Is that the right word? We give the soul certain powers that are unrevocable. The Eibishter gives the soul certain powers, that's the meaning of the oath, that is untaintable. So powers that nothing in the world can affect it. We tell the soul, make the vow, go back to the vow. Go back to the vow. You're right. The soul, you've sinned, you've done something negative, but the Eibishter gave you to be able to always go back to the vow, to be able to reveal the essence of your soul. Statement, text number 8. The godly soul swears to be a tzaddik. This is a statement of the Rebbe. I'm sorry, the Rebbe, this is the fifth leader, the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth leader. He explains what the Alter Rebbe said. The godly soul swears to be a tzaddik and not to be a rasha. It's difficult to understand why would the godly soul swear? After all, the animal soul is which the source of the character deficiencies, such as anger, haughtiness, lustfulness, cause to be one become a rasha. So why does the godly soul need to swear? The animal soul should swear, not the godly soul. The explanation is that the word shavua, to swear, is related to the word sava, which means satiation. Satiation refers to the heavenly assistance granted to a person, giving them the ability to serve God by studying Torah and performance of mitzvahs. This is similar to being in a state of satiation, which causes one to have the strength and even more to be good, to be in good spirits. This is the meaning. We cause him to swear. We satiate. God says, I satiate, by giving him the power that can be founded in a supernal source to overcome the animal soul and not to be a rasha. When one makes an oath in real life, the oath obligates somebody to overcome challenges and obstacles. person is determined to keep his word, their word. And it reveals the hidden powers that cannot be obstructed. And as people say, nothing stands in the way of the will. So the will is revealed by the oath. So too the oath of the godly soul causes the inner powers to become revealed, with which can overcome all obstacles and challenges that poses by the animal soul. So therefore, the way to overcome our animal soul, which we know is true, because he's the one who entices us, he's the one who challenges us, he's the one who's a prosecutor, and he's the one who comes after us. How do we overcome it? So number one is we overcome it by going back to the oath, by revealing our true. Even though we sinned, we know in truth we're not sinners. We know in truth we have the capability of overcoming it. So don't fall into the Yetzer Hara who says you belong to him just because you sinned. Don't fall into the Yetzer Hara who says, I got you. You don't have me. You don't have me. Even though you think you have me, you don't have me. That's the Yetzer Hara who says, telling me I have you. You don't have me. I might have sinned. I might have done something wrong. But you know what? I can fix this. I can always fix this. Let me finish this. I can always fix this. I always can go back to my source and fix it. So maybe you have me 10%. You think right now you have me 10%. Maybe you think you have me 50%. I'm willing to agree you have me any percent, even 90%, even 99%. But you don't have me, you never have me 100% because I have a godly soul, which you cannot touch. And therefore, you never have me 100%. And therefore, I always can make the vow. So even though I'm honest and I say, you're right, Yetzer Hara, I owe you 50%, but I can always make a vow. I always can go back to my soul, which is the essence of me, and I can rectify it. I can rectify this loan. This loan, as long as I'm alive, I can always rectify this loan. That's one way of doing this. One way of doing this. I want to go to the second way before you ask the question. Is it connected to this way?
Yes.
Because I really want to end this thing.
I missed the whole wolf thing.
Again, if a guy agrees that he owes 50%, that's when there's an oath. Only when the guy agrees.
Or something?
Yeah, before you're born, you're given an oath. You learned that in Tanya, the beginning of Tanya. The soul is given an oath. Be righteous and don't be wicked. So the soul, before it comes down to the will, is given an oath. Don't be. Before everything. When the Shama is called in heaven to go down, it's given an oath. That he should be righteous and not be wicked. The soul is told everything that's going to happen to him, and then it's given an oath. Be righteous, don't be wicked. It's a Gemara Nida. It's a Gemara Nida. So the Talmud says that's what happens. The Chassidus explains what means you give an oath to a soul. A soul is a righteous entity. It doesn't have to have an oath. You have to have an oath when you're a human being to do the right thing. Why does a soul need an oath? So Chassidus explains that the word oath means to be satiated. No, it doesn't only mean an oath. Just like an oath. What's the meaning of an oath? That it keeps a person on the right path. That's why there was a concept of an oath. Like this person says 50%, we're trying to keep him honest, to find his inner honesty. So you tell him to make an oath. Now he's going to hopefully say the truth. No, I owe $100, 100%. So the oath is there to give a person the strength to overcome his challenges. So too an oath to somebody. We say about powers, supernatural powers. If the soul was not given supernatural powers, then the soul would become evil. The soul never becomes evil because it has supernatural powers. It has godly powers. So the soul, that's what we say every morning, the soul that you were giving me is pure, never becomes impure. So therefore, when I become impure, my Yetzer Hara is honest. He comes to me and says, Zalman, you've done an Aveda. You've done a sin. You owe me. You belong to me. When he says you owe me, he means you belong to me. You're not so righteous, right? You're not such a righteous guy. So therefore, we can do bigger things, right? Because you're already a loner. So you're ready. You belong to me already. So might as well go for the bigger, right? So how do I respond to that? It's truth. So I can lie and say no. Or I could say, yeah, I owe you. So now what do? You owe me. You belong to me. So we tell the Yitzhak, I don't belong to you. Why? Because even though I owe you, you're right. But I am going to make the vow. I'm going to go back to my vow to be righteous and to be not to be wicked, to go back to my soul. That my soul is pure. I owe you, but I don't belong to you. But here goes the real part of what the Rebbe wants to bring out. And that's the second way of doing things. And that's when we go to the claimant first. God says, you know what? I'm going to go to the claimant first. What is the meaning? I'm going to go to, not the claimant, I'm going to go to the defendant first. What is the meaning of that in a spiritual sense? So here is a beautiful and really the lesson, because it's sometimes hard to go to the oath. Because when you go to the oath, sometimes you realize I far you away. You go to the oath. You go to your essence. You say, I'm such a loser. It can reveal the negative side of the situation. That's a scary thing of coming to the oath, is that it can reveal, oh, look at me. I have made an oath and I'm going against my oath. I'm going against God. If I go to my essence, I realize how far I am from my essence. It might have a negative response going to the oath. A Jew should do it. You ready? And that's the second thing in the pasuk, and that is you should you should say your claim first, because it's a big loss, right? When it's a big loss, that this might be a big loss, you better be the claimant first. And what does that mean? And this is the way that Rebbe learns this. It's so beautiful and it's so important to, I think, everyone, this lesson. You ready? The Rebbe preface it with a Gemara, beautiful Gemara. As I said, when I learned this Sikha many years ago, as a bacher, it blew my mind away. The way the Rebbe learns this.
What text?
Text number 9. The Gemara, the Rebbe brings down this Gemara. I spoke about this Gemara before already, many different times. The Gemara brings down a very famous story. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was with the leader of the Jewish generation in the time of the destruction of the temple. He was the one who saved Judaism. When Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai got sick, the Gemara says, when Yochanan got ill, his students came to visit him. When they saw him, he began to cry. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai began to cry. His students said to him, Lamp of Israel, the light pillar of the Jewish nation, the mighty hammer, the man whose life work is the foundation of the future of the Jewish people. Without you, Yiddishkeit wouldn't have survived. Why are you crying? Afraid of death. In essence, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was afraid of dying. Why are you dying? What are you afraid of? 120 years old, you saved the Jewish nation. You were the tzaddik of the world. Said to them, I have two paths before me. One to the Garden of Eden and one to Gehenna. And I do not know which way they are leading me. I don't know which way they are leading me. I might be going to Gehenna. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, if Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was afraid of going to Gehenna, what are we going to say for ourselves? But how is it possible for Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the leader of the Jewish nation, the one who saved the Jewish people, to say such a statement? There are many answers to that. I'm going to give you the Rebbe's answer to that statement. To Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's crying that he didn't know where he's going. So look at the Rebbe's answer. Ready on text number 10. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, no, because we got to finish this. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was consumed at every moment with his service to God. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was a Jew that was given over to the service of God. Studying of Torah, observance of mitzvahs, being a leader. He was involved in the mission. He had no time. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had no time to think about himself. He was a man who was given over to the mission. He said, listen, my whole life was teaching Torah, was leading the Jewish nation, learning Torah. When did I have a moment to think about where I'm going? About himself and about his standing while the mission is not complete. So Rabbi Yochanan Zaki said to himself, you know what? He said to the students, I never ever thought in the last 120 years where I'm actually going. I was too busy. I was doing a mission. It's the only time I had a time. I'm laying in bed now. I'm going to be dying any minute. Now is the only time in my life I had to think about a second. Wait a second. Where am I going? Yochanan ben Zakkai, in essence, said, I was my whole life focused on a mission. However, the time of his passing, when he was complete his life mission, he stopped his work to finally make an honest accounting what caused him to tell us this story. Why does the Gemara tell us the story? Do we think of Yochanan ben Zakkai? What does the Gemara mean about this story, my friends? And this is an unbelievable lesson that the Rebbe is going to tell us. The Gemara is telling us the story because that's the answer we need to give. The answer that we need to give. Our Yetzer Hara is, I got no time for this right now. The question is only there to stop me in doing my Avodah. Your question that I owe you, you have done sins, you have done negative, is the Yetzer Hara there to stop you from doing what is right. As long as I am in life, to do a mission in life, that's what the Eibishter wants me to do. So that's the meaning that the Eibishter asked the defendant first. The defendant says, I'm here to do, I don't want to take any vows, I don't want to get involved with the Yetzer Hara. I just want to do what is right. The Rebbe writes, look in text number 11, the years and the energy that God grants us to complete our mission in this world are the property of a Jew. When a Jew is completely committed to the extent that the entire being is doing God's mission, and entire time and energy is devoted to completing their godly mission to make this world a dwelling place, then they have no time to go into court to cases of Yetzer Hara. We got no time for court cases right now. We have no time to worry about the past. We have no time to worry about the sins of the past. It's just a waste of time. And therefore, we tell the Yetzer Hara, we're not interested in our debts. We're not interested in our loans. We're not interested. We're worried about it 10 minutes before we die. Then you'll come and you'll bother us what we owe you or we don't owe you. They take the time to go to court case, then they are financially ruined as their God-given time and power became the Rebbe says, if you're going to go and start arguing about your past, and how many Avedis you have, I admit it, you're just wasting time. And that's what the Yetzer Hara wants, to waste time. So if you have guilt, if you have all your guilt, if you're going back to your past, you're wasting time. You're wasting time in the mission of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, if the Yetzer Hara comes to you and say, I owe you, say, fine, I don't care. I owe you, I don't owe you. It's not important to me. I'm not going to even come to court on it. I'm not interested in the whole situation. If the Eibishter turns first to us, in essence, says, what do you say? Say, I don't know, I'm going to try to do my best. I'm here to do my best. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to worry about what I did in the past right now. I'm here right now to do the best. If I'm going to sit and worry about the past, and that's going to hold me back from doing my best right now, I don't want to deal with it. This is unbelievable, the way the Rebbe learns this, if you understand it. They are not utilizing the precious assets. Therefore, we accept their claim, and they are exempt from making an oath. We accept it. Okay, I accept it. That's it. Be honest. Yeah, I have a debt, but I got no time to worry about right now. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, I might have a debt. You're right, now I'm worried about my debt. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, on his deathbed, said, now I'm worried about my debt. I'm worried. You're right. I'm coming to heaven. I might have a debt. How do I know I don't have a debt? I'm not going to earthly court. I'm going to God. To God, we're all in debt. So do I know what my debt is? I don't know. We'll worry about when it comes before God. I'll worry about my debt. His whole life, why did Rabbi Yochanan Mizaki cried when he died? Why wasn't he worried about Gehenna when he was his whole lifetime? And he wasn't worried about Gehenna. Suddenly, he's laying on his deathbed. He's worried about Gehenna. You should be worried about Gehenna your whole life. People worry about Gehenna their whole life. They're worried about Gehenna. Rabbi Yochanan Mizaki said, I was too busy to worry about Gehenna. I was just too busy to worry if I'm in debt, if I owe anything to the Yetzer. I was too busy.
Okay.
Should all be too busy. Because that claim that the Yetzer Hara comes to claim that you owe him is there to distract you from being busy. That's why many people are worried and guilty and they cannot go further and they continue to slip because of the debts that they owe to God or to themselves or whatever it might be. This is all the genius of our evil inclination. Therefore, we are certain that they will not fall under the sway of the Yetzer Hara. Text number 12. Let's finish this off. When one feels feelings of guilt and regret about past behaviors, they must investigate which side is generating this feeling. Why are they feeling guilty about their past? Is it from the Yetzer Hara or is it from the Yetzer Tov? Why are they feeling guilty? Litmus test is the outcome. If their thoughts lead to greater strength and energy to serve God and to live a life that in accordance to Shulchan Aruch, this is the proof that it's coming from a good place. However, if their thoughts lead to laziness, to despair, to depression, whatever the thought might bring you, this is the proof that's originated from your Yetzer Hara, not coming from your positive side. It's these feelings prevent one from serving God, and that's why he came to the world, to serve God. He's wasting his time. Guarding you, good deeds benefit the soul of your Father, blessed memory. This is a letter from the Rebbe. Not feeling of despair. Surely your spiritual counselor will explain this in greater detail. Then the Rebbe writes, text number 13, this ends the class. The words of our sages in this matter are well known. One should not become despondent if he does not withstand the test. He should surely not despair his fight with the Yetzer Hara. To the contrary, despair and despondency are the weapons of your Yetzer Hara. Telling a Jew that there is no use fighting for you won't succeed. To the contrary, if you relapse and you see how bad it is, for after all, this is against God's will, and it also leads to destruction of one's physical and material life. This is the Rebbe writing a letter to a person who has an alcoholic problem. And the Rebbe says, don't be despondent, get up again. It itself should energize you to take up arms in the above-mentioned battle. Eventually, the promise of when person sanctifies himself in a small measure below, they will sanctify him in a greater measure above, will be fulfilled in your life. So therefore, the Rebbe in essence says, if a person has depression, if the person has guilt issues, he has alcoholism, he has other, you need to keep on trucking. You need not to dwell so much in the negative. And to say that because I have these issues, I will always keep on trucking. You'll deal with that on 120 years old. You're wasting time in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're wasting time in the service of God. Get up, keep on trucking. Keep on doing what is right. And that's the second way to do things. That's the second. The first way is you can go to the vow. Try to find strength within yourself. If you can't find strength within yourself, then don't worry about it. Keep on going. Keep on doing good. Don't let the evil consume you and take you over to do only more evil. Continue, try to straighten yourself, try to get up. That's when the first guy responds. That's the meaning of the first guy responds. Don't become a responder to your Yetzer Hara. Be the one who says to the Yetzer Hara, talk to me later. On my deathbed about my sins. Don't try to entangle me right now about my negative and my
Very
sins.
good. Very good.
That's the beautiful teaching of the Rebbe. I'm going to get off of Facebook, and then you can ask all your questions. That's a beautiful, powerful lesson that Rebbe taught from a basic law of the Torah of a moed b'mitzvahs, which I believe we are all a moed b'mitzvahs. We are all people who have done things that are not good. The question is, how do you respond? Here the Torah gave you two responses to do. I wish you all